What's going on, guys? Right, Bomby Teacher in the house, and I'm here with my GPL week number 4 power rankings. Once again, I am not alone. I'm joined by my good friend, co-host and commissioner of the league, Dinistrio. Say hello, Mum.
Hello, hello.
Alright, and as always, if you haven't watched these videos before, firstly, go watch the other ones. They're quite interesting. We always do our power rankings based on two main factors: win, loss, and differential. As a tiebreaker, we do, of course, add our own opinions on why we think certain things are happening, and things like that. Of course, these are our opinions, and they are for discussion purposes. If you disagree with us, feel free to let us know. We always like discussion around here. But yeah, right now that's going to be our primary focus. Now, this week we did have continued issues with two coaches who have since been dropped. So for the purposes of this, we will not be putting them on the power rankings. But we do want to welcome Solo Destroyer, coach of the Wicked Weevils, and Big Nab, who I've tentatively put as Team Big Nab for now, because we don't really know. I know those guys from the Mr. Void Guild. Solo's been helping Transfer with his team builds, so it'll be really interesting to see how they both adapt the Draft League format. Neither of them have played Draft League before, so that's going to be a lot of fun. They do have an unfortunate start of starting at -4 or -12 differential with an 0-4 record, but we'll see what they can do with it.
Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to actually having the red division actually have their games being played, because all the divisions are seeming pretty competitive right now, except for the top division, because those lack of games are really starting to hurt the whole differential and points-based system on the top. So hopefully now we can get that whole section of the draft back on target, I guess you could say.
Yeah, absolutely. Alright, so that means this week we're going to start at ranking number 14. It's going to be Crimpix, of course. Nightmare Shadow still continuing to struggle, but it is very much fair to say that his team this week, in terms of his composition and his style, outside of that Fortress, which he still keeps insisting on, is a much more improved team this week. He actually brought a Trick Room style, which his team is much more associated with. Unfortunately, having to come up against me, who knew his team probably better than he did, he got punished for it, and there were certain things that he didn't account for. Now, I did actually have a chance to have a bit of a chat with Crimpix in DMs afterwards. He was very kind enough to DM me his team that he brought. Quite a lot of his move choices didn't make sense. He had no prep for Florges whatsoever, so I guess he didn't think it was coming. He had no Flash Cannon on his Mega Blastoise, for example, which would have made the 1v1 a little bit harder. And things like that. He had SD on a defensive Rhyperior instead of Stealth Rock, because he relied on Fortress to set all his hazards up, and of course, my Floor just one-shot it with Hidden Power Fire. So I do like what Crimpix is trying to do. He did finally bring the Gardevoir, which is what we were kept pestering him about, to see what he was going to do. He's definitely better, but unfortunately this week it didn't come off for him.
No, he's definitely showing a lot more like creativity in his sets, though he needs to start catering towards his opponents rather than going, oh, that might be a good idea. I feel like he might have some difficulty with typing, because he tried Mega Horning and Ice Beaming your floor just quite a few times, being that it is a fairy type. I feel like he thought it might have been a hot grass type, but that's just a guess there.
There is that, but I did actually also show him, because one glaring error he made as well was the Inferno Overdrive play on my Paralyzed Hydreigon. That Inferno Overdrive never killed me, even with a crit, so I did actually show him the showdown damage calculator I use in the battles. He had to play around and had a look at it, and he's like, oh wait, this is actually pretty good, I'll use that for next time. So we may start seeing a bit more improved decision making there, which I'm looking forward to seeing. But yeah, a lot of it is just a case of him building up, and then we'll eventually make a competitive battler out of him. Of course, we know him more as a shiny hunter, so it's very different for him. But he is improving. He will get at least one win this season. I'm calling that now, bold prediction. I don't think he's going 0-12. I think he will win.
I believe in the power of him.
He does have some easier matches coming up after the next couple of weeks, so we will see where he goes with that. Obviously, he's had some pretty stern tests. He's got a stern test this week having to face
he
Shadow
is literally being thrown into the deep end, really, isn't
oh
he?
yeah, what a horrible matchup to be a first-timer in. Like, it's not very easy. Speaking of first timers, a bit of a crash down the table this week is my good friend Huddled Penguin, of course.
Sorry, dude.
Another really bad loss this week. Dinistrio, you bullied him. No, I'm joking. But yeah, Huddled really failed to account for Dragon Dancing Komodo. I did help him prep his team a lot, and I did warn him against it. But he kept his Entei in when he shouldn't have done, and made some really aggressive, almost unnecessary switches, which really did end up costing him pretty badly. I did like the Scarf Entei. I did tell him to bring it as like a farewell matchup, because I said that's your most reliable way of beating Mega Beedrill. I was a bit surprised he clicked Stone Edge and not Sacred Fire though. Sacred Fire was probably a much safer click.
He had 2 shots at it anyway. My drill run didn't OHKO the Entei at all. I just wanted to get damage done.
Yeah, I think you crit him, didn't you?
I crit his Nidoking, which also wasn't a one-hit.
Yeah. But yeah, like, that was like super unlucky. So, Huddled, of course, 2 weeks in a row getting hit by 2 very experienced players, and it really did show the kind of experience difference between Huddled and both you and me, which is kind of funny that he played both of us 1 week after another. But yeah, I think he will get better over time. I think if he can execute his teams correctly, he'll have a much better chance of winning. If he executes like he did in week 1, where he played correctly towards the end game, he will get a couple more wins. Whether he'll make a shot for playoffs, I'm not convinced right now. Maybe a couple of changes to his team. He has brought Whimsicott in now, which is a much needed grass type that he was lacking. And a much better defogger as well than the Zardex and the Scizor, so...
Perhaps start dancing around with that Clefable more. That unaware ability is just too good to pass up sometimes in these draft leagues, especially when you know someone's going to be coming into a setup mon. Like, I was terrified of that Clefable, to be honest. That would have squashed my Komodo straight into the ground, even with Dragon Dances. That Pokemon...
Oh yeah,
using it, I think.
Is quite tough, even with Magic God as well. It's actually a very, very solid mon. I had it in the PUL, used it fairly well there, so I know it quite well. But we'll see what he can do going on further on. But yeah, rank number 12 this week, I think is the biggest casualty maybe? No, one other person dropped just as far. And that's Gaza subbing in, of course, for Titania this week. Coach of the Loyal Macacos. Pretty unfortunate loss, I think, to Crasher. I would say it was an okay showing for him. He did make a couple of decent predictions, but that Toxapex plus Mandibuzz natural bulk combination was too much for Gaza to be able to break down. And it was obviously a loss that kind of happened. I was surprised to see the Lipard pick. Again, that's twice I've been surprised by Lipard and I've kind of been disappointed by it. What do you think?
I honestly, let me just pull that up real quick on the doc, because I have the page open. It was the Loyal Macacos. Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, there was a few good plays. That Shattered Psyche, for an example, but Siflin showed that he had the, he obviously prepped. He knew, like, you know, this is what's coming in. This is how this Crash is going to react. You know, he's got the sense. There's obviously that Lipard didn't do anything. I think it just got struck down by that Jirachi right at the very beginning. I honestly, it's hard for me to really like form an opinion. I want to see more of him. However, I do think Tatani has come back as well this week. I think what's going to happen from this point onward is both Gaza and Tatani is going to be co-coaching the Loyal Macacos from this point onward, so I'd like to see a bit more from Gaza. Obviously, I'll see more from Titano as well, but honestly, I really don't have much of an opinion on this match at all.
Yeah, it's really hard to gauge someone that's coming in as a substitute, like an assistant coach. It's really, really difficult for anyone to step in that position. I've done it myself over the last few years. It's really, really hard because you're having to use a team that you didn't build. Like, someone else built that team and they've got different ideas of how they play the game. I know Titanio is a much more passive type of battler, but he does hit you back pretty hard if you don't punish him. And Gaza, I know a little bit from the Pokemon community, is a little bit more aggressive as a player, so there is a playstyle difference between the two of them. And that can play a factor in how these battles work. But I know they're both individually very good battlers. Of course, I played Titanio last season. He did kind of run me a little bit ragged with Trick Room, but I did end up punishing him. And I've never played Gaza before, actually. And that's one matchup I never played in Pokemon. Every time I played in tournaments, he always seemed to be in the other bracket. I don't quite know how that happened. But yeah, I do want to see more of him. I do want to see if he can adapt to this team. I do believe Titanio made a change. I can't remember the actual change, though, but I think I saw it somewhere.
Yeah, no, he made
for
change.
the Absol. So,
And he also changed the Muck to his Z captain because Muck was previous, so
yeah. So that'll be interesting to see how it plays out. See if any changes can change his fortunes around. Because I think both of them are better than 1-3 record, honestly.
no, definitely. I think they just had a few mishaps, a few mismatches. Like you said, I think Gaza is quite an aggressive player. I think Crash is a little bit more of a reserved sort of. I'm gonna take that hit and I'm gonna smack it back at you with a calm mind, Jirachi. I think it was a bit of a mismatch between two playstyles, if I had to really sum it up.
Yeah, they're both also very strong battlers from the Pokemon community. I know both of them very well. Crash is actually on Pokemon's council. He helps dictate the meta for that community, so they're both very difficult players. So it just ended up the coin flip fell in Crash's favor. But yeah. Alright, rank number 11 is a good friend to the league and a bit of a drop. It's going to be my friend Agoshi, Team Agoshi, of course. Pretty much the victim of the Transl effect, but nowhere near as bad. Agoshi put Transl under a lot of pressure this week. Almost got the comeback with that Darmanitan. Unfortunately, not being able to remove the Stealth Rocks from the field really did cost him massive in that matchup. And in fairness, to limit Transl to a 2-0 win has been much better than anybody else has done this season, so it's a bit sad to see him outside the top 10 this week. But it does bode very ominous for anyone else who's got to play Agoshi now, because if he can take the best player to a 2-0 loss, what's it going to do to some of the lesser players, you know? It's quite frightening to see where he is at this point, and he's definitely going to be shooting back up the power rankings very soon. I can see that coming.
Man, Agoshi, he's pretty much reminded me why Darmanitan is such a threat and why I just hate fighting that Pokemon. It's just so strong, and Weavile, you know, he's utilizing Weavile decently well. Crocodile, can't fault it. Zapdos, I every time I see Zapdos come out, it doesn't do much, and it just sort of dies.
It's because he wants to play a defensive style with the Defog and pair that up with Mega Mawile to take the ground hits, of course. And that strategy is perfectly viable and it's a perfectly sound strategy, but it's so difficult when it's a very predictable play. I've talked about Agoshi's hazard removal before. He only has 2 Defoggers and a Spinner. And it's pretty predictable that the Swoobat's never coming, so that's one Defogger gone, which leaves him with Zapdos as his only Defogger and Starmie as his only Rapid Spinner. He hasn't had a tendency to bring Starmie, he's often favoured Lantern over Starmie, so that then leaves Zapdos as his only hazard removal on most of his teams. And the reliance on Zapdos to defog makes it very easy to punish and play against, because it's like, well, we know what he's going to do, so we're just going to smash it first before he can't do it. So
yeah, exactly.
Maybe for Agoshi it might be worth considering trying to add an additional bit of hazard removal into his team. He has had a couple of ones that he's not really ever brought. I don't ever see a Swoobat ever coming to a match. I just can't see where Swoobat
You
ever
say that
comes.
now, he's going to bring it this week.
Yeah.
Just to spite you.
6-0 Carmine Simple, you know. Yeah.
I think it's stored power, dude. Don't mess with that
Yeah, it does
Swoobat.
get stored power. But yeah, you know, I wouldn't put it past Agoshi to try. I wouldn't put it past him. But
this is the guy who ran Z-move Electrode in the last league, so you know,
yeah.
nothing will surprise me from Agoshi.
But either way, like, even if he brings a standard powerhouse team with that Marwile, of course, the Zapdos, Crook and Darmanitan are very strong physically offensive cores. He does still struggle on the special side, though, because most of his special ones want to be run defensive, really. Unless he brings, like, a Spec Starmie, which I can definitely see coming.
No, most certainly. And maybe some Discharge Zapdos, that would be nice, too.
That would be nice, too. He's probably run Discharge on him. He's just not been able to click it. Which is the downside to it, really. But yeah, rank number 10 this week. It's going to be someone who's probably very nervous about watching this video. It's going to be Pele, of course, coach of Niagara Pelipers. Our resident Mr. Eager, as I put in our notes when we wrote this. This match actually went, of course, ahead in week 3. He definitely got punished for not taking the time to prep. Not prepping against somebody like DJ and his Rain team is probably one of the biggest mistakes to make. He was too keen. He played this match without really thinking about his matchup at all. He just brought a fairly standard team out of what he had in his draft. And he got punished for it. It's really as simple as that. So, of course, we said this last week as well. Take your time. There's no prize for doing all your matches first. And I'm surprised he hasn't played any more matches yet. I rather jokingly said to him, let us know in 2 weeks' time when you finished all 12. But yeah, I do think, given the time to actually prepare a team, I do think he may actually be a lot better than what we've seen from him so far. But right now, he's taken a bit of a crash and his differential's taken a massive hit. So, slow down, buddy. It's fine. We'll see if he can get more wins.
He's had no choice but to slow down. His next opponent is, I do believe, Solar Destroyer. Based on Solar Destroyer's changes to his team, they've already got an automatic extension for Wednesday, just to compensate for obviously prep. Not that I think probably really, needs the extra time as he's so eager. But I think with that in mind, I think he is sort of like taking a sort of like step back and just breathing a little bit, Plus, he's also got that Excadrill live this month, I believe, this week.
He does have it, yeah. I'm not convinced by the Excadrill personally. I don't think it adds enough to his team. I'm very surprised to see the KB dropped. I thought KB was the biggest threat on Pelly's team, outside, of course, of that Mega Alakazam. I don't see Excadrill being super good in this matchup. I feel like Excadrill gets punished pretty hardcore by that Metacham. So, I don't know. I don't like Excadrill on Pelly's team, but I do, of course, remain to be proven wrong. I'm always happy to be proven wrong, because I couldn't see the justification for it. What's interesting about Pelly's match this week, actually, against Solo, is both teams don't prioritize hazards or hazard removal. I said this in my picking video as well. That Solo now only has 2 defoggers in the form of the Taunty and the Rotom Wash, and Pelly has a Rapid Spinner in Excadrill and a defogger in Gliscor. So you can kind of hazard a guess as to if any of them have it. I could see a world where neither one of them bring any entry hazards or removal at all, which means it's just going to be a bloodbath of everybody smacking each other, which could be a kind of fun match.
My favorite kind of game.
In that kind of situation, no, I still favor Solo. I think Solo's offense is a lot more hard-hitting now. Pelly doesn't have Kieran Black anymore.
Fair. No, I think I agree. I'm interested to see why he's picked up the Excadrill, like you said, because Kyron Black is just a monster. I don't think I would ever drop Kyron Black, so the fact that he has makes me really curious as to what he's got planned for that Excadrill.
What also surprises me even more is no one's immediately snapped up to pick that Kieran Black. So right now it's still undrafted, which is
you've got some draft picks, right?
Yeah, but I have Infernape in my tier 1 slot, and I kind of can't afford to lose that. That's too much of a monster for my team. But yeah.
Just do it, you'll be fine.
Speaking of making rather unusual changes this week, we'll actually talk about Sylvie very briefly, because as 2 people didn't play their matches this week, Sylvie was the beneficiary of a forfeit win, which has actually sent him a little bit up, because he's now 2-2 with a better differential than some of the other players.
Sylvie's actually qualified for playoffs at the moment.
I know, that's quite shocking to see him in the wildcard spot, which is kind of funny. No disrespect, of course, Sylvie. Of course, we are joking, but like, it is funny to see Sylvie there.
I can trash talk him as much as I want, but me and Sylvie both sit, right? Both me and Sylvie sit 2-2 with a -2 differential right now.
No,
we have the exact same score.
Sylvie's 1 differential behind. He's -3 or -2. So it's pretty close. So it's funny to me to see that. Of course, Sylvie being the beneficiary of a forfeit win does help him, but who's he playing this week? I think he's playing one of the new guys, isn't he? I believe he's playing Big Nab. So
think so.
Yeah, I think it's Big Nab. So that's going to be interesting. That matchup is in his favor, in my opinion. I said this in the pick'em as well. I feel like Big Nab's team is too slow and too easily punished. So I will be interested to see how Sylvie adapts to that rather pseudo-ish Rain team that Big Nab has put together. So of course he will have to work for his win this week, which is something that we know Sylvie can do. He did make a turnaround win against Izzy, so he is perfectly capable of winning matches. We're not saying he's terrible and he can't win, but we are saying, of course, he's inconsistent. So hopefully the better Sylvie turns up this week and he picks up a win. Of course, I wouldn't be too surprised if he gets punished.
Hopefully the Sylvie who doesn't have Z metronome. Just saying, you know. Oh
no, bring it. It's fun. You know, get some random Z move that doesn't actually hit the opponent. What's more fun than that? Oh dear. But yeah, let's move on to rank number 8 because it's a very rather well-known person. I think I'll take this one. Yeah, so obviously, of course, Dinistrio, Swansea Search Service Coach, picking up a very convincing win this week with that Dragon Dancing Combo, punishing Huddled's lack of mechanical knowledge to be able to position himself correctly. Really hit incredibly hard. Combo, of course, picking up 4 kills is always threatening. I have to play him in week 6. I have to play Dinistrio week 6, so I'm looking forward to beating him. No, I'm joking, but like, I do think it's a good match for you this week. I think it does give you a lot of momentum. 2 wins on the bounce now, having been 0-2 at the start of the season with a weaker team. Definitely shows a lot of knowledge. Definitely shows why you're here. It definitely shows that you've got a lot of skill, and I would not be surprised to see you pick up even more wins. Just as long as you don't beat me, it's all well and good.
I mean, I'm gunning for both you and Trent, so I don't care about anyone else at this point. It's just you and Trent, so going down.
Oh, that's fine. We'll see about the power rankings after week 6. And if I'm doing the week 6 power rankings solo, that probably means Dinistrio's mad at me and I beat him.
No.
No. Yeah. Alright then. Coming in at number 7 is gonna be someone who's impressed me despite unfortunate losses this week. It's gonna be Exostomp, of course. I play him this week, so I'm looking forward to that much. Yeah, he took last season's champion to a 1-0 loss and actually very nearly won. But for Hale being up, he actually would have won that match with his Scarf Tapu Koko. Whew. What a hype match, though. What a hype match.
It was such a fun match. However, a lot of the stuff that was prepped, other than the slow bro, by the way, which was really carefully calculated for like a good half hour of trying to work out what the best set for that was. Quite a few things didn't go exactly according to plan for Shadow, but he won the game, so I guess enough went into enough worked, I suppose, for him to get the win. Just narrowly, though.
Yeah, I mean, EXO asked me for a little bit of help with his team build this week, so I knew what he brought. The Infestation Seismitoad actually started out as a joke, but actually ended up doing quite a bit. Obviously, it would have got punished had Shadow had Giga Drain on his Venusaur, but he did explain in the Discord as well why he didn't have it, because he thought there were too many things that actually walled it, which makes sense. I can definitely see his rationale there, but I don't think that's a mistake that Shadow will make again. And it is a mistake, Shadow. I'm sorry, I know you said I was going to roast you, but I'm not. But either way, like, EXO played very, very well. He did everything he could to win that game. So, he did have very solid sets. The Scarf Tapu Koko outspeeding the Autotomized Celesteela was clutch. Hella worth it. And I am kind of worried of what he's got for me this week, because we've already seen how good a team builder EXO is. He definitely puts himself in a good position with his prep. It is just going to be a question of who plays better on the day. I'm hoping that it's me. Transel wants me to win as well, so we'll see how this goes. I'm kind of worried, not gonna lie. I wouldn't be surprised if he beats me.
I think this match versus EXO is probably going to be your hardest match so far. If I had to.
Yeah, when I was preparing my team, I was kind of like, there are 2 mons that if he doesn't bring, I'm comfortable. One mon I don't see coming is Hawlucha. I'll talk more about that in my team builder, but I don't think he brings Hawlucha this week. But I'll reveal why in my team builder. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing.
Find out next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Alright, rank number 6 is the biggest climb this week, actually, with a huge rise up. It is going to be Crasher, coach of the Melbourne Macagas, picking up a 2nd win in a row. How do we feel about Crasher?
Oh, well, he's definitely starting to live up to all that chatter he likes to sprout in the Discord, but
He's definitely out there, that's for sure.
he's displayed some good sets. That bit Jirachi is just wrecking at the moment.
I feel like that
Mandibuzz.
Jirachi's going to get predictable, though. Like, people are going to predict that, and he's going to bring it, and they're going to have answers for it. So, I do worry about that for Crasher, but I know Crasher's smart enough to be able to avoid that. Of course, the guy's a tremendous battler. I just wish he had the same sportsmanship as he did battle skills, you know?
I generally see Crasher making a top seed playoff rank. He'd be interesting to fight in. I mean, I get to fight Crasher at one point, like during the cross conference games, which is going to be
an interesting
hard
match.
fight.
That's going to be an
His
interesting
team
matchup.
just doesn't look like they die. To be honest, Toxapex, Mandibuzz,
Yeah,
Jirachi, Zygot,
especially
they just
those
don't die.
yeah,
They just don't faint.
I feel like that's the thing with Crasher, though, is like I said in my notes before, that the Sleeping Lion's finally awakening. The first couple of weeks I wasn't convinced by him at all. I felt like obviously the first week he got beat with a rather poor attitude. He basically was negative before he even went into the match, and he got punished for it. And then in week 2 he obviously didn't play his match, so that's a very different thing. But now we've seen 2 wins in a row, we've seen what he can actually do. He is now a genuine threat. He is, of course, in that Sword division, which is slightly less stacked than the Shield division so far, as proven by records, which will help him, of course, definitely push for that upper playoff rank. He is, of course, competing over there with DJ, who is currently the strongest player in that division. So we will definitely see what Crasher brings to the table going forward. If he keeps winning, then we are going to start seriously talking about playoff contention. Obviously, if his run kind of stops, then he will have our question marks. He does have 2 new coaches to face. I do believe he has to play them both, so I'll be interested to see how well that goes for him.
Yeah, and the one thing I have noticed as well, he's a very careful and safe player from what I've seen in his last 2 matches, or last match rather, because replay wasn't available for his last match. But from what I can tell, he obviously does his prep, but he's also just, a lot of his sets are just very, very safe.
Which sometimes that's all you have to do. If you can play safe, calculated, and effective, then you're fine. Where Crasher differs from someone like Krimpix, for example, where Krimpix is passive and doesn't do damage, Crasher is slightly passive but does damage in the right ways. So that might be a model actually there for Krimpix to watch some of Crasher's battles and see how he plays his defensive switches and things like that. That might give him a little bit of mechanical practice for him there. So Krimpix, if you're watching, that's something that you might want to consider doing. I know you do watch a lot of videos and replays and stuff like that, so that might be one for you to add to the list. Alright, coming in at rank number 5, it's a second beneficiary of a forfeit win this week, and taking him back to differential in positive terms is Dizzy, of course. There's not really anything to talk about this week. We can't really talk about a match that didn't go ahead, but it's nice to see Dizzy making a slight climb up the rankings. I like his team a little bit more with the changes. I am interested to see how he plays around it. So going forward, it will be a fun time for him. I can't remember who he's playing this week.
He's playing the Rain Dance guy.
Ooh, yeah, that's gonna be interesting.
DJ? I think. DJ, yeah, he's playing DJ.
That was a tight matchup to call, but we both predicted DJ to win. But we wouldn't be surprised if Dizzy put in a result here. He does, of course, have that Bulu, which is really obnoxious against rain teams. So we'll see what happens.
He's got some strats. Like obviously, I haven't helped. We haven't sat and like fully gone through it, but I know he was prepping earlier today, and I'm always pretty confident in Dizzy's ability to team build. So
I do like
the more time he gets,
a lot.
Yeah, you give that man like enough time to team build, then he will make like the absolute most one of my favorite kind of like teams. So I'm excited to see that game.
Yeah, I can't wait either. That's going to be a lot of fun. All right, now the next 4 actually haven't really changed much in position. The only thing that's changed is record. So rank number 4 as a non-mover this week is Shadow X, of course. Go to the Shiroi Shadows. Took a lot for him to pick up a win, of course, against Exostomp. Definitely. Obviously, of course, wins first and foremost are important, but one thing that is concerning me at the moment compared to the other 3 above him is that differential. A +4, it indicates in 4 matches that his matches are always really, really close. Now, when it comes to playoff races, of course, with how stacked the Shield division is, if people start picking up wins, and more convincing wins, and Shadow drops a game somewhere, here or there, you might actually start seeing Shadow drop out of the upper playoff spots and not even make a wildcard spot. That could be an absolutely terrifying feeling for last season's champion, of course.
I think the big benefactor in Shadow's current differential was that, was it 5-0
against
defeat?
Transall really didn't help. Yeah.
That is the biggest benefactor in all of this at the moment. Although I think Shadow's next few matches are going to be relatively a little bit more easier for him.
Apart from me
I
in
believe,
week 7.
Apart from you. Wait, no, especially you, I mean to say. But
I see you. Just because I'm going to crush you in week 6, you don't have to flame me for week. Nah, I'm joking. But yeah.
If I don't beat you in week 6, I'll beat you in week 7 somehow.
Shadow will probably have a good matchup against me. Of course, he did beat me in last season's final, so we do have very different teams, though, so it will be interesting to see how that matches up. But yeah, I think some nice, comfortable wins for Shadow will definitely ease the playoff worries a little bit. Obviously, of course, with Transall and me being the top 2 players in the league at the moment, we're pretty much on good form for being locked for the top 2. So he is very much in that fight, of course, for the wildcard slots. But I wouldn't at all be surprised. We know Shadow very well, of course. He's a super strong and creative team builder. He's very good mechanically, so I would not be surprised if that one loss maybe his only loss for quite a while, you know. So it is on the others below to put the pressure on him. So we'll see what happens with him. But I really hope he can fix his differential a little bit and make it a bit more comfortable for him.
I'm pretty confident he will.
So, rank number 3 is our Rainmaster Extraordinaire, DJ, of course. Very, very nice win this week. Coming up absolutely huge, of course. Maintains that run really, really strong against Pelly, of course. Too keen. Being undefeated at this point in the season with a +15 differential is immaculate when you think about it. Like, that's very much unprecedented, and he's only ranked 3, which is terrifying. In most other leagues I've been a part of, or I've been assistant coaching, or I've just been a front office member for, this never happens. Like, you never see clear front runners like this at this point in the season. DJ has definitely shown how good he is with that Rain team. He has brought Manaphy in for Excadrill, which is an even more terrifying threat in Rain, particularly with that tail glow. So I'm definitely interested to see how he pilots it against Dizzy. Dizzy will provide a very stern test for him, so we'll be interested to see if DJ can continue to maintain that undefeated streak. He is currently the highest ranked player in the Sword division, so that is worth noting. So he is being hunted down by the likes of Crasher, so let's see what happens with him. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm also pretty looking forward. I mean, this week he didn't even bring Mega Swampert. He relied heavily on that Fairphone and Neuven, and they just got the job done. There was one unfortunate miss from Carbomandel.
The Ice Hammer from Carbomandel, yeah. I know there were other misses as well, like the Focus Blast misses from the Mega Alakazam, and the Stone Edge miss from the Stack Attack, and would have knocked out the Pelipper as well. So there were definitely some RNG moments in his favor, but that's Pokemon. That happens, you know. When you run the risk of inaccurate moves, that can happen. Not, of course, saying that DJ had to use RNG to win. There were definitely very strong moments for him. That Specs Noiva set is
you can just see in his playstyle how confident he is with his team. So that's definitely, obviously, if you're confident in your Pokemon, if you've got experience using these specific mons, then obviously it's going to reflect in your gameplay, and I think it's definitely shown here.
Absolutely, and it's consistent every week as well. It's not like he's winning with very, very poor results. Like, he's not getting close wins, he's getting very comfortable, composed wins. We talk a lot about that with Exostomp as well, where he's very comfortable and composed with what he's doing. So he knows how to win his games, and he's been doing it. He's 4-0 for a reason, Red. Speaking of the 4-0 club, I'll let you take this one, Dinistrio, because rank number 2 is still me.
Yeah, it's your handsome boy Ribombi teacher at second at the moment, not moving up or down. Still at that 4-0 plus 17 differential. Your match this week was against Krimpix, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it was. Oh boy. Well, I can let me just pull that up. Yeah, okay, there it is. So you had the Hydreigon. Yeah, okay. So Celebi and Florges definitely put in work.
Absolutely,
Prepped
especially late
well.
game for Celebi.
That the Giga Drain definitely came. It's so big for that against that right period. Not that I think that you had much really things to be worried from in this matchup. To be honest, I think Snorlax, if you had Belly Drum, maybe would have put you in a little bit of a less differential. But you see, we discussed this just earlier before we started recording. Infinite had you covered there. Trick Room does definitely mess your team up a little bit there, though. Looking at that,
It would
utilized
definitely
more.
have been an issue had my floor just not been paralyzed. The unfortunate body slam power on the floor just meant that my floor just was actually slower than the Snorlax in Trick Room. So it also allowed me to wish up on the Snorlax, which meant that my floor just was a lot safer. One thing we also did talk about before we started recording is I had the chance with Grimpix to look at his team. He had no prep for Florges whatsoever. Like, there was nothing that he had that would hit that Florges, so I don't think he expected it to come. And that was where I kind of figured that would work. When I picked Florges up in week 2, I had Grimpix specifically in mind when I picked it, which is why I didn't pick it before, because Cresselia was a much better special bulk against the Agoshi and Huddled. So, knowing that, I had Florges sitting in the back there. Florges will come again. I do have other prep with Florges coming up, but I'm not going to spoil that. But yeah, I really like Florges as a Pokemon. It's a very good wish support. It's a good defogger. Of course, having that hidden power fire tech to punish his reliance on the Fortress. Very nice little bit of tech there. He certainly didn't see it coming. We talked to it afterwards. He didn't even think about it, despite the fact hidden power fire has been Fortress's #1 predator this season. I think
you prepped smart and you played pretty safe and smart. Again, I don't think you really had much that you really worried about in this matchup at all, to be honest. And with that confidence from your last 3 wins too.
As soon as I found out that Victini wasn't scarfed, I was incredibly happy. Like, Scarf Victini actually put in a lot of pressure. I was also kind of happy and surprised not to see the Salamence come. Salamence really actually, if it got a Dragon Dance up, actually could cause a lot of problems. But as it happened, this week my Infernape and my Aero didn't even see the field. So those sets weren't revealed unless you watch my team builder, which you should be. But it's one of those situations where I was calm and composed. The power haxes were annoying, but having the foresight to scarf my Hydreigon just in case. I had that prep for Scarf Victini, of course. Victini would still outspeed, but it wouldn't hit me hard enough. And of course, I did get unlucky with that full power up with my Hydreigon. I could have killed the Victini before it even got its Z-move off, but I got fully paralyzed, so it didn't work. So there are lots of moments in there where I was very much in control the whole battle. I played safe enough to be able to win. That's all I had to do. And that's always difficult. When you're playing against someone who's newer, they're often a lot more unpredictable. So even if you make the correct plays, it might even end up being the wrong ones. So
I would have liked it if at one point where you had the Godvorin on your Hydreigon, instead of going for the kill, he set up the Trick Room. I do feel like maybe getting that kill might have been a little bit better, but
yeah, it was a difficult situation. But then, because I was of course scarfed, if he went for Moonblast, and he wasn't max speed, he was a more defensive Gardevoir, which meant that my Hydreigon outsped anyway. So I could still just pivot out on him, and then he would just be Moonblasting into something that's not really that bothered, like my Florges, that really just doesn't care about a Moonblast. But either way, though, it's another comfortable win. It definitely helps me out in my hunt for rank 1. Please nerf this guy, someone. Transel is still here. Rank #1, plus 19 differential. I'm catching him up because he only took a narrow win this week. Please do that again.
Oh, he's going to take a loss this week anyway, so it's fine.
Oh yeah, there is that, so you never know. Someone else might be rank 1 this week. It might be me, it might be DJ, who knows, right? But it'll be definitely fun to watch. Of course, it could be a funny world where DJ, Transel, and me all lose, and then Shadow wins.
I was just thinking the exact same thing.
Shadow won't be able to get rank 1 even if he's 6-0s, because, of course, we've got super high differentials. But it is quite funny to see that. Of course, Transel, too good. I loved his prep. Definitely his prep worked. He was made to look a little bit more human this week. His matchup was not as strong as his other matches. But the fact of the matter is he still managed his sacks correctly. He still played around the fact that Agoshi couldn't remove the entry hazards. That Kyurem put in a hell of a lot of work this week.
That parting shot into Landis Intimidate is so big.
That was massive on that poor Morwell. That Morwell's coming in with that huge power, and then it ended up being worse than its regular Morwell.
You know, despite being at -2, it still did a decent chunk to Weezing with Iron Head, though. I was quite surprised.
Yeah, I think it was especially defensive Weezing that Transel brought, so I'm not too surprised by that. But yeah, it just shows how smart Transel is as a player. We said it before that he's obviously got a really OP draft, but the other thing, of course, is that he's piloting it correctly as well. You can have the best draft in the world and still be 0-4 because you don't know how to play it, right? But that's nowhere near the case with Transel. Transel is clearly up there, and he's up there for a reason. He's waiting for someone to beat him. He rather jokingly said to me after we've recorded our pick'em earlier that he doesn't plan on losing anytime soon. So, fighting words from my boy, of course. But I definitely look forward to it. It does make the matches a lot more spicy. I love Transel. He's a super cool guy. So I'm really glad he's in the league. I'm glad he's doing well. And I look forward to fighting him in week 10.
Man, I can't wait to put Transel's streak in the ground 6 feet under, and I'm going to enjoy doing it.
That's
I've
what I
already dug
like
the hole.
to hear.
I've already dug the hole, man. I've already dug the hole. All I have to do now is just bury him.
Alright, so let's see if Dinistrio ends up eating his words come week 5's power rankings, of course. But yeah, alright, that's going to be it from us. Thank you, of course, Dinistrio, for joining me again. I appreciate it.
Yeah. No problem, thanks for having me.
Alright, so we're gonna get on out of here. My name is Rabombi Teacher, I'm your coach of the Royal Bournemouth Rabombis. Stay safe, stay awesome, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.